Greetings and welcome back to my channel, guys. So this video is going to be a little bit different from the rest of the videos. It's not going to be lore or history. This is a short story by Richard Knaak. It's called Wyrmfather and it's about the greatest dragon ever to live on Krynn. So let's begin. Tales of this ancient dragon are told among elves and wizards. Although few other have heard of him, the Knights of Solamnia speak of this great beast, but only as part of the legend of Huma Dragonbane, who vanquished him. What is known of Wyrmfather is as much as a myth as fact, but whether the latter is any less incredible is difficult to say. And this is what is said. In the early days of Krynn's creation, when the first dragons were forged by Rorix under the guidance of Paladin and Takhisis paid special attention to the making of each. Flattering Rorix, she not only began her corruption of the blue, red, white, green, and black leviathans before they were finished, but she stole from each some essence of their being. To her fiery consort Sargonas, Takhisis commanded that a new, different dragon to be quickly forged, one who would have no equivalent. Although skilled, Sargonas was not quite the equal of Rorix, and so, with the additional hurl of finishing his task before the other god did, his shaping of this new beast was imperfect. The essence of each color did not mix correctly, the results being that the dragon turned out gray, with muddled spots predominantly of green and blue, as if diseased. He was also longer and far slimmer than the others of his kind would be, with an incredibly lengthy neck and head more massive by far than any other dragon. He was also much larger and fiercer. No dragon would exist who could compare in might, and Takhisis, after her initial dismay, proudly proclaimed him Wyrmfather, for the dragons forged by Rorix were as tiny children in comparison. The Dark Queen's corruption of the five caused a furious rift among the gods, even though 5 more dragons were made of glorious metal were fashioned to counter the first. Takhisis' treachery at last caused an all-out war between the deities. Dragons in epic combat filled the skies of primordial Krynn, and the young world was nearly torn asunder. The war dragged on and on, neither side achieving dominance. And then, in the midst of the struggle, Takhisis revealed Wyrmfather to her enemies. Great was the horror among not only the dragons but also the gods at the sight of this titan. Wyrmfather not only had claws that could dig riverbeds and a maw able to devour his lesser cousin's hull, but wielded the magic inherent to each of the original 5. With the behemoth at the head of her legions, Takhisis finally gained the upper hand. At last, Paladin's son Kirrijulith, the bison-headed god of just cause, took up the gauntlet. He met the giant dragon over Krynn, and the two did battle. The fury of their struggle shook the world. Mountains were corned up by their feet. Vast valleys were dug by mist blows. The seas whipped high. Their battle would last over a year by modern reckoning, with neither taking advantage over the other. Then Kirrijulith slipped to one knee as the dragon came at him. Wyrmfather laughed, thinking his foe finally weakening. However, the move was but a feint. Kirrijulith leaped up at the beast and struck, landing atop of Wyrmfather. The god struck again and again with his weapon, and this time triumphed. Kirrijulith took the badly wounded dragon, and, as an example to the other beast, buried the leviathan within a mighty mountain, at the same time stripping the creature of much of its power. "You will remain within this mountain," Kirrijulith told Wyrmfather, "never to see the sky, much less fly it. You shall not even know release until one of mine grants it to you." And with that, the god left the giant alone in his prison. The other dark dragons lost nerves from the defeat of their champion, and the war turned against Takhisis. Forced to forge a peace with Paladin, she cursed Wyrmfather and turned her back on her creation. However, Sargonas, who had been as much if not more the dragon's creator than his mistress, secretly left with Wyrmfather a mirror that would enable the Leviathan to see himself, the closest he would come to having companionship. But the mirror had another power, one that enabled Wyrmfather to circumvent, if not by a minor way, his sentence. Sargonas had made the mirror so that it could reveal other places in the world. Thus, Wyrmfather might not be able to reach the actual outside, but he could at least have the reflection of it. As the centuries passed, Wyrmfather borrowed a myriad of system of tunnels with his head, each time hoping to find the surface. Yet, although he riddled the mountain, it was too wide and too deep. Madness began to set in, compounded by the mirror, whose images actually taunted him. His remaining magic enabled him to draw riches through the surface of the mirror, but those baubles ever more quickly paled in interest. The madness grew, and worse. Wyrmfather's old injuries took their toll. His eyesight failed utterly, stripping him from the use of the mirror. Although he now had wealth of the gods and men, he could not see them. The tale of Huma Dragonsbane battle is known throughout the Knights of Solamnia, and the story says of Wyrmfather's body after death that it became the metal of which the future Dragonlances were cast. Whether this is any more true than any other part of the dragon's legend, only time and the gods know. So I hope you enjoyed this short story by Richard Knaak, The Tale of Wyrmfather. I haven't seen anyone else post anything about him, and to be frank, throughout the internet you can't really find too much information about this great Leviathan. So I hope you enjoyed this story, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely day.